Hello, I'm Claudia Imhoff, and I'm here today at the Pacific Northwest BI Summit in a beautiful Grants Pass, Oregon, and I'm here with my friend, John Santaferraro. John is the Vice President of Parexel. Welcome, John.
Glad to be here, thanks.
So, John, this is your third time to the BI Summit. So far, so good?
I love it here. I love, I always refer to it as a think tank because I love the way that everybody comes here, they kind of leave their vendor hats behind them, and there's just this great interaction among people, just trying to define what the future of business intelligence and analytics is going to look like. And when I look around the room, the thing that I love is that there are people in the room that can not only talk about the future, but we can actually make it happen.
Yeah, it is like a think tank. In fact, I enjoy it so much. Hearing what you folks have to say, hearing what the other experts have to say, it's just a wonderful, comfortable place to be.
Yep, agreed.
All right, well, let's get to one of the topics, big topics that was talked about, and it was talked about today, and that's the idea. There's such a big emphasis on big data, and we kind of twisted that today and said, no, it's not really the amount of data that you have, it's really all about how you use that data. What kinds of analytics. So instead of big data, we sort of twisted it and said it's really all about big data analytics. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. I think that we probably 9 to 12 months ago, everybody was talking about big data, and Parexel is an analytics company, and we built our analytic platform from the ground up to be able to handle really complex analytics on massive amounts of data. So we wanted to talk about big data analytics instead of just big data. And the trend that I'm seeing now is that that's where the discussion is going. People have all the data. They've got it stored, they're filtering it, it's in different platforms, and they're looking at it and asking the question, how do I get value out of this data?
And the value's in the analytics, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, one thing that Parexel does, which I think is really interesting, is they sort of divide the analytics up into 3 dimensions, I guess. That's the best way I would describe it. Why don't you talk about those 3 dimensions? What are they? And maybe give me a quick example of what each one is.
Great. So we actually see the world of analytics extending in 3 different dimensions. First of all, everything is moving from simple to complex. Everything is moving from static to dynamic. And then everything is actually moving from a single system to a more interactive approach to analytics.
An example, a complex analytic, for example, what would that be?
Market basket analysis is a great example. We have one customer in the retail space that was trying to do market basket analysis. They were on a more traditional data warehouse platform and could only handle about 6 months of data. And their market basket analysis was so complex it was taking 46 hours to run.
Wow.
So we put the data into the Parexel analytic platform, no modeling. The entire market basket analysis ran in 30 seconds. So,
wow.
So as things expand in terms of complexity, that's the kind of platform that we're building to support that increase in complexity.
And that's big analytics right there. All right, what about the second one, dynamic? What would be an example of a dynamic query?
Dynamic is really speaks to the way an analyst interacts with big data.
How they think, they formulate their questions.
Exactly. They come up with an hypothesis, they create an algorithm, they run it against the data, they want the results back, and then they look at it and they say, well, I need to tweak the algorithm one way or another. Maybe I want to try some different data. I don't know if that was exactly the right data set. So they're constantly in this iterative process, and they're used to being in an environment where they have to wait for data to be prepared or to get access for data. So at Parexel, we've created an environment that allows them to access all the data whenever they want to, and even the ability to go out and pull in on-demand integration data. So data from anywhere they want right in the middle of the query.
So kind of freewheel through the data, kind of just, on the spur of the moment, think of something they want to look at.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right, last one's interactive. What do you have there?
Interactive has to do with this idea, Sean Rogers talks about the hybrid data ecosystem. And in the hybrid data ecosystem, he says that you should allow the workload to gravitate to the platform that handles it best. So most companies actually have a data warehouse, they have Hadoop in some form, and then they have an analytic platform doing the analytics. And so when we talk about interactive, there's this idea that if I'm an analyst and I'm querying my analytic database, doing something very complex, I may want to go out and grab some data from Hadoop while that query's running, let Hadoop do its work, bring the results set back in and combine them for more data. So, you might want to combine, for example, sentiment analysis from social media with complex customer segmentation or next best offer data.
Yeah.
So it's very interactive among the systems.
Oh, excellent. All right, well, the other big news, and that's coming up really soon, on July 18th, you're about to launch your next release, which is 4.0.
Yes.
And as I understand, it's also really focused on supporting big analytics.
Exactly. So when 4.0 comes out, one of the things we did is we looked at this new world of analytics where things are becoming increasingly complex, they're becoming more dynamic, and they're becoming more interactive. And so I'll mention a few of the things that we did that support that whole world. So from a complex perspective, we increased our support for very large complex queries. And so what happens is when a query comes into ParaXL, we parse it into small segments and then figure out how do you run those segments against different nodes. What algorithms, hash join algorithms, do you use? What kind of aggregation? What's the best order to run them in? And then we distribute it across all of the nodes in the system. So we now support up to 2,000 segments for a query. So a query can be broken down into 2,000 segments. So as complexity grows, we'll continue to grow that amount of very large, complex query support.
So again, all about performance, all about getting the answers back really fast.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I have to admit, I'm looking forward to the new release. I think it's going to be a good one. Thanks so much, John. I appreciate your time today. It was really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And again, that's it from me. I'm Claudia Imhoff, and this is the Pacific Northwest BI Summit.